For
the
the
Air
benefit
Force.
of our viewers, this is the first image that's coming out of Dubai. This is immediately after the crash. Firefighters rushed to the aircraft. It just exploded in a huge ball of smoke and fire. There's a lot of inflammable aviation turbine fuel that needs to be put out to ensure the fire doesn't spread. And there are specialized equipment, specialized firefighters who get into the task of then putting out that fire. And hopefully, Air Marshal Bhatia, we were all hoping against hope that the pilot may have ejected with the zero ejection seat. Again, for the benefit of some of our viewers, the zero ejection seat would help you eject even if you were on ground. But sadly, that was not the case here, unfortunately. Air Marshal Bhatia.
Well, I mean, if you look at the images, it doesn't appear that the pilot was, pilot has ejected. But it's quite possible that the pilot was actually quite not even wanting to eject at that time. And he was in the process of recovering the aircraft. What I'm saying over and over again, that in the process of recovery, unfortunately, because of just a though few feet, it has mushed into the ground. And that is why, with the impact on the ground, the aircraft has exploded. There is quite possible that the pilot had no intentions at all of even ejecting, and he was in the process of recovering the aircraft
But
as a normal.
isn't there a ceiling, Group Captain Narang, if you're still with us, and group? Okay, so let me bring in Air Marshal Bhatia and Sandeep into this conversation once again. Air Marshal Bhatia, to you first, that there is a cut-off ceiling, that you don't go beneath that to retrieve the aircraft unless, of course, it's an emergency. In this case, if he thought he could retrieve it, should that process not have been much earlier? And does the instrumentation not tell you that you're about to, have a CFIT or a controlled flight into terrain and tell you to pull up, sir?
Well, all that happens, but here you're seeing an aircraft with the process of recovering from the dive. You can see it is recovering. The nose is coming up gradually, and you can see the nose is up when it hits the ground. The
Yes.
point is there is a certain amount of inertia which is there with the aircraft momentum, and that is why the inertia has brought the aircraft down while it was recovering, and that is why you have a minimum height for recovering from these maneuvers. But the point is here, obviously, the aircraft has gone below the permissible height
Envelope, yeah.
and whatever it is. But there could be some reason for that. And we, court inquiry will be able to ascertain as to what exactly happened.
Okay, and every bit, Group Captain Narang, every bit of that information is recorded in the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder to know whether it was, God forbid, pilot error or any technical aspect, engine issue, any other issue that the plane didn't have enough thrust to pull once again, even though, as Air Marshal Bhatia rightly points out, the aircraft had its nose up, attempting to pull up once again.
No, in fact, aircraft investigation is very scientific process. When we investigate the actions taken by the pilot or the response of the flying machine or the aero engine, most of this data can be analyzed and scientifically we can arrive at the cause of the accident. So I have no doubt when our investigation team and such teams are trained to carry out scientific investigation, and let's say we find a material failure or any system failure, even that can be assessed. So now our aircraft investigation science has reached a level that most of the causes can be identified. I am sure we will be able to ascertain. As regards to pilots, ability to undertake, ejection on time. Remember, this flying is being undertaken close to the ground. When you're flying very close to the ground, it is just a lot has to do also with the appreciation of the pilot, and time to course correct is very, very limited. So we really are not sure what caused this issue. But as far as investigation mechanisms and science of finding the cause, I think we'll be able to arrive at reasonably accurately the cause of the accident. Gaurav?
Okay, Sandeep, how long does this process take? There is clearly no time limit to a court of inquiry, but the Air Force would want to know as quickly as possible so that in case there are any corrective measures that need to be taken at the level of the OEM, engine provider, any other component provider, it can be done as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, Gaurav. It would take something like 2 months for the Indian Air Force to come up with the inquiry into this report, and they will actually have come out with, a very comprehensive picture of what really went on with this crash. And, the timing of this crash, the fact that it happened at a very prestigious air show, all of that, would, of course, put a lot of pressure on the investigators. But the Indian Air Force will go about it very methodically, will go and consult all the stakeholders, and of course the CVR, the FDR, all would be examined in great detail before they came to their conclusions. But the earliest we're being told is, Gaurav, 2 months from now, you will have a fair idea of what exactly went wrong here.
Okay. Air Marshal Bhatia, you've been Director General Flight Safety and Inspections, and you've been AOC in CWAC, Western Air Command. I want to understand from you, the moment an aircraft goes down, and unfortunately, like in this case, we've lost a pilot, what systems kick in? What is the standard operating procedure? What is done at what stage, sir?
Like it has been pointed out that the court of inquiry will go into the fullest details as to ascertain as to what exactly went wrong. But let me here put in a little word that personally I feel that this particular program, HA program, has been one of the safest programs anywhere in the world, I would say. And I mean, we have been flying this aircraft for now a number of years, and it is the accident that have taken place. It's happened only recently in the
Yeah,
past.
only two. One in
Yeah,
2024 and one in 2025. And
that's
this is
right.
the first fatal, sadly.
And I'm convinced that this actually program is very safe. We are going ahead and we must carry on.
Oh,
We are going
absolutely.
for Mark 1, Mark 1A, and then we'll be going for Mark 2 as well. So these, and we, let me tell you that Indian Air Force is going to have not 100, 200, but more than 300 of these aircraft in its inventory. I'm talking about Mark 1, 1A, and Mark 2. And this is a solid platform, and we must continue with the development and making sure that this aircraft remains as safe as possible and really be a backbone as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned.
Sir, when we talk about, and give me a moment, Sandeep, when we were taught to talk about supply chain management issues when it comes to Tejas, the G404 engines were delayed, but and that is actually delayed the project quite a bit initially and now. Earlier sanctions, now of course we are told COVID, post-COVID. How much of that has been sorted out? How much of that will continue to be a problem for the Indian Air Force in times to come?
Well, Gaurav, you know that a foreign engine on the Tejas is actually a Damocles sword, if you can call it that, on the Tejas program. And we had no option but to go for the imported engine because our own engine is taking time to develop. The Kaveri engine was taking time to develop. We are, of course, had a rethink now on that. We've restarted the engine program with new partners. But for the moment, for this current program, Gaurav, the Mark 1 Alphas, the Mark 2s of the Tejas, they will all be powered by the GE engine, the GE 404 and the GE 414 for the advanced Mark 2 Tejas. So the GE engines are literally, the aircraft is literally built around the engine, Gaurav. It's been designed around the engine. It's something that it's an inescapable reality. And we have taken this, choice of going for an American engine, and unfortunately, we will have to continue with this engine. And this is something that will worry a lot of the Indian Air Force and, of course, HAR on precisely the reasons that you mentioned, the supply chain issues that, that this could become a pain point for the program where other countries to try, get you to comply on to their, wishes will try and squeeze you on these so-called supply chain issues it is not sanctions, Gaurav, but it is sanctions by another name. And unfortunately, this is the choice that we have taken. And because this program is now so important for us, for the Indian Air Force, especially, which is faced with falling squadron numbers, it needs these aircraft in numbers, and two squadrons of these aircraft every year have to join, Gaurav. So that's why a lot is riding on this program. This LCA Tejas program is a critical program for the Indian Air Force. We've been talking about fifth generation fighter aircraft, but those are in the future. You're talking of new 114 aircraft. That's also in the future. The Tejas, Gaurav, is the one aircraft program that we have in hand today.
Yes.
It is a reality, and we have no option but to make it work, Gaurav.
Oh, absolutely. It's just that the Americans have delayed the supply of the G404 engines. Initially, it was because of post-Pokhran sanctions, and subsequently, which actually delayed the entire Tejas light combat aircraft program from the time that it was conceptualized to its final, fructification of this project. And now, post-COVID 2020, there have been supply chain issues. And Sandeep, unfortunately, those problems are likely to linger in times ahead. So our entire program, Air Marshal Bhatia was talking about India's big dream of around 300 plus Tejas. Right now, conceptually, we're about 220 is what we're looking at. But it remains to be seen whether we get engines on time, how many made in America and sent to India, and God willing, one day made in India.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And we have no option now in the near foreseeable future but to go with the American engine. It is possible theoretically to get a new engine into the Tejas, but that will involve extensive redesign of the aircraft. A new set of certification, all of that. That's going to take several years. So for the moment, for the next decade or so, we have no option with the Tejas program, given the kind of criticalities that it is imposed on the Indian Air Force. The fact that we have, for the first time in more than half a century, we have an Indian Air Force which is less than 30 fighter squadrons. We need those numbers. It
Yes.
is the Tejas that can deliver those numbers. And as you mentioned, it comes with this baggage of having an imported engine. It's a very good engine, Gaurav. The F404, the F414, they power frontline American fighter jet, aircraft like the F-16, the F-18. All of these are powered by the GE engines. But
Yes.
it so happens that you're dealing with a mercurial administration that would use this as levers on your supply chain. And that is the problem that the Tejas face. And
Somewhere down the line, those who were planning all of this should have thought, if Safran or if France was offering engines, should we have diversified our supply chain instead of putting all our eggs in the American basket? But unfortunately, that's a debate for another time and another situation. Right now, it's a very, very tragic piece of information and news that's coming in from the Dubai Air Show. I've